Hey everyone, and welcome back to the My Favorite Things YouTube channel. This is Mindy Egan, and today I'm going to be doing some ink blending using the Cascading Rainbow die. So first, I want to show you the supplies that I'll be using in today's video, starting with the Magical Friends stamp set, essential stitched sentiment strips, Cascading Rainbow, Stitch Rolling Clouds, Good Vibes Only stamp set, and the Mini Cloud Edges stencil. For cardstock, I'll be using white and black cardstock. For inks, I'm going to do my stamping in the Extreme Black ink, Versamark for my heat embossing. Then I have the Distress Oxide Speckled Egg, Candied Apple, Peacock Feathers, Squeezed Lemonade, and Wilted Violet. Some additional supplies I'll be using are black and white foam squares. I have an embellishment wand, tweezers, icy sparkle crystals, glue tube. I have a little embellishment tray, my anti-static powder. I also have a low tack tape, and then I'll also be using some Post-it tape. I have a large tape runner to glue my panels together, and then also some blending brushes to do my ink blending. I have some Copic markers that I'm going to use to color in my images, and I will list all of the colors at the top of the screen. So to start my card, I'm going to stamp this image onto some white cardstock. This is 80-pound white cardstock, and I'm stamping it in the MFT Extreme Black ink because it's Copic friendly. Then I can work on Copic coloring my image. So I will have all of the colors listed at the top of the screen for you. I'm starting with the skin of the little girl riding on the dragon. I have E04, E11, and E00. Then for her hair, I colored with E29, E25, and E35 is my highlight color. Her dress, I'm going to color in kind of a pink tone. So I'll be using RV29, RV14, and RV13. And as I went along, I noticed I did miss little bits here and there of the dress or the arm on the other side. So I do color those in as I go along. The dragon I'm going to color in BG49, BG13, and BG32. When I grabbed these colors, I didn't realize my BG13 was so dried out. So it took a little more work for me to blend my colors. And I'll show you a little trick that I do when I'm having difficulty blending. But I know this marker is super dry, so it does look like it took a lot of work. So I added shadow areas with BG49 to the back side of the head and then right behind the girl because I see her as casting a shadow. I also added the shadow to the back side of the neck, right behind the back leg, and then on the bottom of the tail. And I'm just blending out with those two colors. My highlight color or the lightest color is going to be the BG32. Now this is the first layer I'm putting down. Normally I would just color with one time go round, but because I was having such a difficult time, I am coming in with it again, so repeating all of those same colors. And one thing I like to do when I'm having difficulty blending is doing the tip to tip method. So I will take my BG13, which is my middle color, and I'm going to touch the tip of that BG49. That's going to help that transition a little bit better between the colors. So once I have the dragon all colored in and I'm happy with the blends, I'll move on to the belly. And I'm going to use the same color for the belly, the spikes on the dragon, the horn, the ear, and the wings. I just did that for simplicity purposes. And I'm using G07, YG06, and YG00. So I made sure to kind of have the lightest area more towards the front of the dragon. I'm envisioning that they're flying towards the light source so that it's shining on the front of them. Then I added those colors to the wings, and the spikes were probably the easiest thing to color because I really didn't blend on those spikes. I literally just kind of added a line, and the line is going to be the furthest away from that light source wherever it may be. So once I have everything colored in, I'm going to take the coordinating die and I'm going to line that up over my image. I'll hold it in place with a low tack tape and run that through my die cut machine. Then I'll move on to working on the background for my card. So I'm using these mini cloud edges stencil. And I just have a piece of white cardstock here that is cut to 4¼ by 5½. I'm loading up my blending brush with a speckled egg distress oxide ink, and then I'm just blending that top cloud layer. Now I'm holding the sides down with just a low tack post-it tape, and each time once I blend that on, I'm going to just shift that down a little bit and turn my stencil. I love how these just give so many different layers and have a really fluffy cloud look to them. Now, since I have my ink blending brushes out, I'm going to work on my rainbow. Now, whenever I think of a rainbow, the colors all really blend together, but I really liked the arches in this cascading rainbow die. So I'm just taking another piece of white cardstock that's 4¼ by 5½. I'm using this die as a guide on where I want to start my rainbow colors. So the first color I'm using is Candied Apple. And I just kind of hovered my blending brush over the area so I knew where to start. It's not going to be perfect, and I didn't expect it to be, but I really wanted to have kind of those soft transitions between the colors, because if you ever look at, well, the rainbows that I see over my house, the colors really just kind of blend together. I don't see significant lines. So I was really trying to replicate what I see when I see a rainbow. Then I'm moving on to Squeezed Lemonade. And I love the combination when these two colors meet. It creates such a really nice soft orange. Then I can add in Peacock Feathers. And once again, kind of blending up into that yellow a little bit to create a faint green. And then I'll finish it off with Wilted Violet. So making sure to fit my purple into my rainbow. Now, if I feel that I didn't get a good enough blend or the other colors aren't coming through very well, I can always come back in with my brushes to help bring those colors out just a little bit more. Then I can bring in that Cascading Rainbow die. I'm lining it up about where I want those colors to be, and I'm going to hold this in place with a low tack tape. The sentiment that I'll be using today comes off of the Good Vibes Only stamp set. I lined that up onto some black cardstock in my Misty tool, and I want to make sure that I really prep my stamp. I've really been conscious of this lately, so I'm rubbing my hand over that stamp to get off any maybe residue that's left from the manufacturing company when they're created. If there's anything on there, that's not going to give you a really crisp image of whatever you're stamping in. So like for Versamark ink, I really wanted it to pick up that ink, and I'm finding I am getting a lot better results lately by making sure to clean that stamp off first. So then once I did stamp that, I'm sprinkling on some white embossing powder, and then I'm going to melt that embossing powder with my heat tool. I've also discovered I'm really bad at cutting, so I'm using the Essential Stitched Sentiment Strip, and this way I can get, it's going to be an even margin on the top and the bottom of that sentiment. Now for the rainbow, I'm attaching this to my cloud background that I created, and I'm using just my tweezers and some liquid glue. I really am not worried about if it's hanging off the card or if it's not even. I just want to make sure that they are butted up right next to each other so there's no white line in the middle. Because I already know I'm going to trim this down, I want it to be framed with a white margin of space. So once I have this all glued down, I wanted to add just a little bit more interest to my rainbow. So I kind of masked off my clouds up there with a scratch piece of paper, and I'm taking my spray bottle and just spritzing water over my rainbow since distress oxides are reactive to water, and then I'm dabbing up that water with my paper towel. Now off screen, I trimmed my panel down to 3¾ by 5 inches, and I also cut 3 more pieces of cardstock that is a 110-pound weight, and I cut it just a little bit below that size. And I'm going to layer these pieces together. This is going to add dimension behind my ink blended panel. I just prefer this method versus foam tape because it gives me even coverage over that entire panel. Then I can go ahead and add my rainbow panel on top. And I have some clouds that I die cut using the Stitched Rolling Clouds die. I love how poofy these clouds are. Can you tell I'm a cloud person? I'm very much one of those people that can sit and stare at clouds all day long. I love the big billowy clouds. So anyway, back to the card. I added some tape runner behind that panel, and I'm attaching that to a white card front, so I have that really nice white margin. Now my colored image I'm adding to the front with some white foam squares, and I have black foam squares behind my sentiment, and I did trim off one of the flag ends so it can be flush with one side of my card. I'm going to add just a little bit of sparkle using the Icy Sparkle crystals, and I'm attaching that with the MFT liquid glue and my embellishment wand, and I did 3 groups of 3 embellishments each. I like to work in odd numbers. All right, that finishes up my card for today. I hope you enjoyed this ink blended cascading rainbow. Thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you again soon.